Welcome to the Nepali Diaspora Network podcast. This is our latest deep dive into the newsletter, and it is a pretty heavy week.
Yeah, it really is. It feels like the calm before the storm, honestly.
We are sitting here exactly 6 days away from what could be the most consequential election in recent history.
March 5th.
Right. March 5th is circled on just about every calendar in Kathmandu right now.
But it's a very strange, pressurized kind of calm,
Yeah.
Because on one side, you've got this massive democratic exercise gearing up.
You can actually feel the energy.
You really can. But then on the other side, you have these stark realities facing the Nepalese diaspora globally right now.
Oh, absolutely.
We're looking at deportations, visa freezes, and just some really baffling economic paradoxes.
It's a week of massive contrasts, for sure. Our goal for this deep dive is to cut through the noise of the digest and figure out what all these shifts actually mean for you, the listener, whether you are tuning in from New York, London, or Dubai.
Right, because we have a former rapper trying to take down a political titan. We've got a pretty grim crackdown on global immigration.
And right in the middle of all that, there is this story about a football star that, it kind of restores your faith in humanity.
Even if it completely destroys your faith in the system.
Yeah, exactly. So let's just jump straight into the main event. Wednesday, March 5th. Give us the scale of this election because the numbers are just staggering.
They are massive. So you are looking at 18.9 million registered voters.
Wow.
But the number isn't even the most important part here. It's the context. Remember, this is the very first parliamentary election since the Gen Z protests toppled the government last September.
Oh, right, the street-to-seat movement. The anger back then was so palpable.
Exactly. And that energy has now translated into actual demographics.
How so?
Well, there are nearly 4 million first-time voters aged 18 to 24 entering the booth next week.
4 million.
That is a demographic tidal wave. If they actually show up, they change the math completely.
And everyone is watching one specific race to see if that math holds up. I feel like we have to talk about Japa 5.
Oh, the marquee matchup.
Yeah, it really is the ultimate old guard versus new blood battle. And old guard might actually be an understatement here.
Definitely. You have KP Sharma Oli. He's 73 years old.
Former prime minister.
Right. And the chairman of the CPN-UML, the Communist Party of Nepal, unified Marxist-Leninist. He is essentially the definition of the establishment.
And challenging him in his own fortress is Balendra Shah, Balen.
The rapper turned mayor.
It sounds like a movie script, doesn't it?
Yeah.
A hip-hop artist taking on the political machine.
It does, but Balen is a very serious politician now. He's 35, representing the Rastriya Swatantra Party, the RSP.
Right.
And the dynamic on the ground suggests this isn't just a protest vote. Usually, a titan like Oli would spend the election season touring the entire country.
Acting as the star campaigner, kissing babies, shaking hands nationwide.
Right. But the reports from the ground say Oli is spending 16 days a month campaigning just in Japa 5. He is actually renting local accommodation there.
Wait, renting a house. You don't do that in your own stronghold if you feel safe. You do that if you are genuinely worried.
Precisely. You do that if you are scared of losing your own seat. And the RSP aides are incredibly confident. They released a statement claiming they will win by 60,000 votes.
That might just be political bluster, but the fact that Oli is pinned down suggests the threat is real.
And it is not just Balen. We are seeing this squeeze happen elsewhere, too.
Right, like Thapa, who is 49, challenging the old leadership within the Nepali Congress Party.
Yeah, it's a generational squeeze on the traditional power brokers across the board.
But it's not all just spirited debates and rallies, is it? There's a darker side to the campaign news this week.
Unfortunately, yes. When the old guard feels threatened, things can get ugly.
The newsletter mentions some significant tension. The incident in Gokarneshwar, for example.
That was quite disturbing. Allegedly, CPN-UML activists attacked grade 10 school children.
School children? Why would anyone attack 10th graders?
Because they rang a bell.
A bell?
Yes, the bell is the election symbol of the RSP Balen's party. These kids reportedly rang a bell as a rally passed by, and the activists saw it as an act of political opposition.
That is terrifying.
It shows the desperation. Effigies are being burned. It's a clash between the old Nepal style of politics, which often relied on intimidation, and this new wave of expression.
And the state knows the potential for violence is high.
Oh, absolutely. There are 341,111 security personnel deployed right now.
And a nationwide alcohol ban in effect until the results are out. They're essentially locking the country down.
They have to maintain order.
But then amidst all that tension, there are these quiet moments of progress. The polling centers in Lemjun and Sangja, for instance.
Yes, that's a really great detail from the digest. The Election Commission has set up what they call model polling centers.
Right.
In Sangja alone, 38 women have been appointed as polling officers.
And in Lamjung, there are centers managed entirely by female staff.
Entirely. Security administration, everything.
That is amazing. For a female voter in a rural district, walking into a center run entirely by women has to completely change the experience.
It does. It's a reminder that the machinery of democracy is becoming more inclusive, even if the politics at the top remains aggressive.
Okay, let's pivot. Because while everyone in Nepal is looking at March 5th, the Nepalese diaspora is looking at their visa status with a lot of anxiety right now.
This is the diaspora squeeze we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, we need to talk about what is happening in the U.S. The news is pretty grim.
Under the Trump administration's second term, we are seeing a very aggressive spike in deportations.
The digest numbers are sobering. Since January 20th, 2025, 585 Nepalese nationals have been deported.
And the curve is accelerating. Just last month, in January 2026, there was a record 101 people deported in a single month.
And to understand the tragedy behind those numbers, you really have to look at the smuggling story that broke this week.
All right, this isn't just people taking a commercial flight and overstaying a tourist visa. This is desperate, dangerous migration.
Authorities busted a $7 million smuggling ring.
Yes, 2 Nepalese nationals were charged, including a man named Kalbahadabor Basnet. The investigation revealed that migrants were paying around $70,000 each to be smuggled into the U.S.
$70,000. In a village in Nepal, that is a life-ruining amount of debt.
It is generational debt. You are selling ancestral land, selling the family house, borrowing from local loan sharks at astronomical interest rates.
And think about the outcome. They pay that money. They endure a terrifying journey through Latin America. They cross the border. And under these new policies, they are arrested and put on a plane back to Kathmandu.
Returning with nothing but debt, it completely destroys families.
And it seems like the legal routes aren't much better right now. The U.S. has suspended immigrant visa processing for Nepal.
Yeah, Nepal is now on a list of 75 countries facing sanctions on visa issuance. So even the proper way family green card's legal sponsorship is effectively frozen.
It really feels like the doors are closing. And it's not just the U.S. The U.K. numbers are down significantly, too.
Correct. UK work visas issued to foreign nationals dropped by 19%.
But the specific sector hit hardest is what matters most to the diaspora.
Exactly. The health and care sector, which is a massive employer for Nepalese workers, especially nurses and carers, is down over 50%.
So if you are a young person in Nepal right now, those traditional escape routes going to America or the UK are just getting blocked.
Which brings us perfectly to the economic paradox back home.
Right, because if you just look at the headline numbers for Nepal's economy this week without any context, you would think the country's booming.
You really would. Remittances are up 39.1%.
That is 1.62 trillion rupees in just 6 months.
And the foreign exchange reserves are at a record high. $22.47 billion.
So to put that in perspective, that is enough to cover 21.4 months of imports.
And a healthy economy usually aims for about 7 months. Nepal has 3 times that.
So here's the question you are probably asking yourself right now. If the country is flush with cash, why does it feel like the economy is stalling out?
That is the big paradox. The reserves are high, not because the domestic economy is producing goods and selling them. They're high because nobody's buying anything.
Imports are down because consumption has basically collapsed.
Exactly. Inflation is at a 2-decade low of 1.63%.
Which usually sounds like a good thing, right?
In a developed economy, maybe. But in a developing economy, it's actually a warning sign. Food prices are actually dropping. We have deflation in that sector because demand is just so weak.
People aren't spending. And the banks, they're just swimming in liquidity.
The digest showed deposits grew by 417 billion rupees, but lending only grew by 197 billion.
So the money is just sitting there idle.
Businesses aren't borrowing to expand because they don't see any customers. Consumers aren't spending because they are worried about their future.
And this ties directly back to the migration issue, doesn't it?
It is the root cause. We are seeing 2,300 Nepalese leave for foreign work every single day.
2,300 a day.
Yes, we are exporting the exact demographic that consumes things. The young people who would normally be buying motorbikes, building houses, starting small businesses.
They are leaving, so the money comes back as a remittance, but there is no one there to spend it to drive domestic growth.
It's a recession-like reality masked by a really strong national balance sheet.
It's like a wealthy ghost town.
That's a great way to put it. And the IMF even weighed in on this. They released a tranche of $43.2 million this week.
Right, but they flagged some serious concerns.
They pointed out challenging conditions for cooperatives and projected very low growth, around 3 to 3.5%.
And the cooperatives are the banking lifelines for the rural poor. So if they are shaking, the foundation of the economy is shaking.
Exactly.
That feeling of institutional failure of the system just not working for the people leads us perfectly into the most emotional story of the week.
The story of Samba. Sabitra Bandari.
The people's captain. For those of you who might not follow football, she is the absolute star, the face of the national women's team.
She plays professionally for Wellington Phoenix in New Zealand.
And she suffered a devastating injury, a torn ACL.
For an athlete, that is a career-threatening injury. She needs complex surgery in Qatar to fix it.
And the cost for that is around $80,000 or roughly 135,000 New Zealand dollars.
So naturally, she turned to NRNA, the All Nepal Football Association.
Yeah.
They are the body responsible for looking after national athletes.
And this is where the old Nepal mindset really shows up. NFA offered her 500,000 rupees.
Which is roughly $3,700.
That is not even 5% of the cost.
And then they essentially washed their hands of the situation and stepped back.
It was a complete betrayal. She is a national hero. But here's where it gets absolutely fascinating. The institution failed, but the network the people didn't.
Samba went public with her story.
And the response was instant.
Within 24 hours, fans raised 14 million rupees domestically.
And internationally, through the diaspora, they raised another 52,000 New Zealand dollars.
One day. It completely smashed her fundraising target.
It really highlights a theme we keep seeing in the digest. The official institutions in Nepal, whether it's the economy, the political parties, the sports associations, they are struggling or failing outright.
But the community is stepping up. It's the new Nepal operating outside those old, rigid structures.
Precisely. And we saw little glimmers of that community spirit elsewhere this week, too, like the British Gorkali Cricket League over in the UK.
Yes, they secured a new major sponsor, Bridge International. It's a really positive story about the diaspora building its own institutions abroad to keep that community spirit alive.
And back in Kathmandu, the metropolitan city is doing something vital regarding heritage. They are mapping 509 ancient place names.
Which is so crucial. Amidst all this modernization and migration, holding on to those original names is an act of cultural preservation.
It's saying we might be modernizing, but we are not forgetting our roots.
We also had the Tour de Thakurwara cycling event in western Nepal.
Promoting tourism way out west, beyond the usual Annapurna or Everest spots. Locals taking ownership of their geography.
Yeah, say we have something beautiful here too. Come see it.
Now, looking ahead, there is one more big event on the calendar right after the election results. The NRNA World Conference.
March 14th to 16th. This is the massive gathering for the Non-Resident Nepali Association.
And there's a major development here that fits right into our theme of access and the new Nepal.
Yes, for the first time, they are proposing online voting for leadership.
That is huge.
It is a total game changer. Historically, if you wanted to say in the NRNA, you often had to be physically present in Kathmandu for the convention.
Which basically means if you are a wealthy business owner, you can afford to go. But if you are a nurse working double shifts in London or a construction worker in Qatar, you have zero voice.
Exactly. The system heavily favored the elite. Online voting means that nurse, that student, that worker could finally have a genuine say in who leads their global organization.
It's democratizing the diaspora. So bringing this all together, we have an election that feels like a tipping point.
We have an economy that is technically rich on paper, but feels incredibly poor on the ground.
And we have a global community that is constantly bailing out the broken systems.
That is the core tension of this moment. You have the old Nepal, the institutional failures, the political violence, the reliance on exporting labor.
And then you have the new Nepal, the Gen Z engagement, the community crowdfunding for Samba, the push for digital democracy in the NRNA.
The real question is, can that new Nepal actually take the wheel on March 5th?
Well, we will find out in 6 days. Before we wrap up, speaking of the diaspora helping each other out, I want to give a quick shout out to a resource that is actually helping that community network we just talked about.
Right. If you are based in the UK, you should definitely check out balayot.uk.
It's a really handy platform. Think of it as community classifieds for jobs, housing, local events.
Yeah. If you are looking for a Nepali-owned business or just trying to connect with the community in London or anywhere else in the UK, it is a fantastic resource.
Totally. Just a great tool for helping the community connect. That's balayat.uk. And for the full deep dive on everything we discussed today, including all those economic stats and the breakdown of the election districts, head over to nepaldiaspora.net.
You can read the full newsletter there. And please share this deep dive with a friend who follows Nepal. This is a week where everyone really needs to be paying attention.
Absolutely. Now, I want to leave you with one final thought to mull over before the election. We talked about the protests last September. We talked about the palpable anger.
The street to seat movement.
Right. But on March 5th, with those 4 million first-time voters walking into the polling booth, the question is, will the ballot box finally catch up to the street protests?
That is the ultimate question.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. We will see you on the other side of the election.
Take care, everyone.